Working? Okay. Yes. I think it has some delay, so yeah. But okay. Now it's there. Okay. Action. Right. Thanks. Welcome again to this learning lab, digital tools for urban managers and planners. This is a joint endeavor of many different people. We will be introducing ourselves in a bit. We have the Competence Center Democracy, Digital Governance, Urban Development, and the Competence Center Digital Society of FMB. We have a working group from SNGA, e-governance and digitalization, and as a main co-host, the TurboClick Transformation of Urban Opportunities Climate Change Working Group. We are a cross-sector group between two of us and SNGA. And we are really excited to have this opportunity to gather so many different colleagues together to learn together today. The idea of the Learning Lab is to try to identify solutions and to create a learning environment for exchanging on good practices regarding digital planning and participation in the context of urban and local governance projects. Some questions we have been asking: which digital tools can urban planners and managers use for planning and participation or mapping? What are the different needs and the pitfalls? Which tools already exist and are in use in GIZ projects in Asia and elsewhere? Moreover, we also are asking what and how planning processes are supported by digital solutions. How can we learn from initiatives, different initiatives in GIZ? What is about also IT procurement and different questions? And perhaps you also brought your own questions. This is the main framing for this learning lab. We have brought a quite full-packed program for you. We will have now also a welcome, also introducing many people behind these events today. We want to have some activation, so some work on a whiteboard. We brought three very insightful inputs from different projects and different sector departments in GIZ. And we will have also then this introduced a little bit more in detail later. We want to do a crowd mapping and also tap on the collective intelligence that is available here. And also there will be some input about IT procurement. So packed and a lot to do. So to get started, I would like to just show a bit who has been involved in this exchange and who has prepared everything and who is here convening this as well, and would give the word to Ishitiak as the speaker for TurboClick for the SNGA side. And then also hand over to each and everyone you can see here in this slide for you to just say a few words about yourself and why you were here. Starting with Ishitiak, please.
Thank you, Lucy, and good morning and good afternoon, dear colleagues. Actually, what Lucy mentioned that yes, from TurboClick side and many other similar-minded colleagues are gathering together to organize this event. And hope I'm also eager to waiting to see what will be coming, what is coming in this session. And I will not spend much time, but giving some idea about what is TurboClick and in a very short way. That actually TurboClick stands for Transformation, Urban Opportunities and Climate Change. Mostly we are working with the cross-sector issues: governance, climate change, environment, infrastructure, and obviously digitalization, digital tools is one of the cross-cutting issues in our whole work of activities. And mostly we are collaborating with Asian projects, and over more than 100 colleagues are somehow involved. And we are 6 team members in a core group that we are managing or working with together. And we have a team formation like this, that we have a working group from speaker from SNGA side, that is me, Ishtiaq Hossain. I'm based in Bangladesh, working in SLDP project. There is a climate change project. And I have my another tandem partner, tandem co-speaker, Sebastian Marker. He also a new tandem partner. He joined just recently, last month. And before that, everybody that Vaishali was with us, but due to this various reason, and now she is not in this core team, but he will be with us. But Sebastian now working as a co-speaker. I will hand over to Sebastian. If you can introduce yourself or can share something. Sebastian. Sebastian, are you here?
Seems we lost Sebastian. Yes,
he's here, but maybe he has some issues with the network.
I'm here. Exactly. Yes. Hi. Hello. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon from New Delhi. Yeah, I'm happy to actually being able to be the successor of Vaishali as a speaker for the working group, TurboClick working group from the two of us side. Yeah, briefly to me, being with GIZ now for nearly 10 years. I started as a development advisor in Zambia, then worked in South Sudan, and for the last 5.5 years in India as an advisor to the cluster coordination for sustainable urban and industrial development, and also in the beginning this year, being the deputy of Vaishali for the Climate Smart Cities project, and also now for the Urban Act regional global project, which is actually starting soon, and will be a cooperation of India, China, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, and also in India a little bit as kind of the successor, also from the view of our partners, of successor of the Climate Smart Cities project. Yeah, and then also, technical wise, mostly working in projects concerning good governance, concerning water, sanitation, infrastructure supply, urban planning. And yeah, this is also I would say, the whole TurboClick and the combination of the two here networks, SNGA and TU was something very exciting, something which I think looking forward to work with all of you in the months and perhaps years to come. Yeah.
Thanks.
I think so far from my side, and yeah, always
great, Sebastian. We are really happy to have you on board. Welcome. It's of course the Indian portfolio, and also being so close to Vaishali, I think it's going to be a good joint work continuing. Also, we have Mamdouh Rahman, who is also part of TurboClick, but he's also from the SNJ side, working with some other topics. And Mamdouh, would you like to introduce yourself and say just briefly why you were here, and just also to give you the space also to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Lucy and other colleagues. Good morning and good afternoon from the rainy Dhaka. It's raining a lot in Dhaka, and the country is flooded at the moment, but still we are enjoying the rains somehow. So as Ishtiaq, I also work in the same project under the Climate and Biodiversity Cluster in GIZ Bangladesh. And after a long break, I somehow again got engaged with SNGA, maybe after 6-7 years and so on. And we are planning to formulate the new working group called E-Governance and Digitalization. We are planning to have a launching of that very soon, maybe in a couple of months. And I'm very happy to be part of this event today as well, because urbanization and urban management is again coming to a hot topic in Bangladesh once again. It was not that much in previous 2-3 years, but now it is really coming in front once again. And digitalization is everywhere. We are overwhelmed with this topic. So merging of these two is certainly the one of the most important thing we can handle. Very much looking forward for the event. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mamdouh. And we are looking forward to also exploring further opportunities to collaborate on this interface of the digital and the urban. topics, and that's why also we are very happy to have Anne also supporting us in this organization. She has been driving it and will be also co-moderating it. I forgot to say in the beginning. And Anne, please, would you also perhaps also say a few words?
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. I won't say much, like I am supporting as a tandem partner, like the working group, or beforehand it was a task force, digital, like at the SNGA, and excited to explore some small flipped classroom methodologies later on. So that, we start with the brainstorming and then go to the inputs, because we think the wisdom is in the room. And I think I am handing over to Charlotte, and happy to be your co-facilitator, Lucy, later on in the event. Handing over to Charlotte.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, hi, everyone. Welcome to this great event. I am an active member of the TurboClick working group and also kind of the co-initiator of this event. My background is urban and transport planning, and in my previous job, I developed a planning tool for planners, and I did a lot of research on why do we have troubles with planning tools, getting them into practice. And so since I'm an advisor in the Sustainable Urban Development Smart City 2 project, and we have a planning tool there, we came up with this idea to have a learning lab. And I'm super excited to learn a lot and to get the knowledge from all of you, and that we continue with that. Over to you, Lucy.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so actually, to myself, I haven't introduced, but I was like, always just assume everybody knows me. I am also happy to have this learning lab with you. I'm supporting TurboClick as an external consultant, and have been trying to put the topic of digitalization also on our activities. And we have some products which I will then be sharing afterwards as well. But yeah, coming to one important topic, we wanted to take the opportunity to use this meeting today to say a big thank you and farewell. So to Vaishali, because she's staying a dear member to our working group, but she has ended over her responsibilities to Sebastian, as mentioned. And I don't know if Vaishali is there, if she wants also to say some words. Otherwise, just for the record, Vaishali, thank you so much for being with us so many years and for continuing also supporting the work we are doing. Is Vaishali there?
Yes, hi Lucy.
Yes, hi.
I think you're presenting so you can't see. Okay.
I can,
yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much everybody, and it's this lovely dynamism that I really enjoyed, and I continue to enjoy. And I just for work reasons need to take a little step back, but I will continue to follow all of you, and of course be an equally active member, try to be an active member in TurboClick. So all the best, and continue now as an audience. So after 6 years, no more, 2015 onwards as a co-speaker. Yeah, so all the best, and looking forward.
Thank you, Vaishali. A big applause to you for your work. Thanks a lot. All right, then I also want to take the opportunity to present 4 more important colleagues that have joined us today, and already saying a big thanks to the 4 of you already for bringing the inputs and bringing your expertise. Shumana, Nina, Lisa, and Gunnar. And now I have the problem that I wanted to paste the short bios, not for us to this time for reading it out, but I cannot do it because I'm sharing my screen. I will do it just in a bit, but they will all be presenting themselves also in a bit when we start the inputs. But also big thanks to you to the 4 of you already for your time and for being here and for bringing your expertise on the different tools. So actually, as Anne mentioned already, we wanted to start with a sort of a flipped classroom method, and starting with brainstorming and having the brain and the hand working a bit, and also the heart, because it's a bit about the emotions that you have had already, perhaps regarding different tools for planning, for managing urban issues that you have experienced. So the idea is that, and I will share the link to the Miro also in a bit, but we want to ask you to write, draw, or visualize. Sorry? I think there is a mic on. Just someone said coffee. Yes, please, coffee. Write, draw, or visualize your story of learning. The idea is, think for one moment about the most significant lessons learned, and the story, whatever comes to your mind and heart regarding digital planning or management. What has worked, what hasn't, and why? The idea is that we try to grasp that and visualize this, and then also we will hear some stories afterwards if you want to share. So it's a little bit of a silent work now, and I have to share the link just in a bit.
Lucy, I just posted the link in the chat.
Yeah, okay. I have another link because it's going then already to the frame that you need to work. So you can click the second link, and I hope it works. You can be creative. You can be honest. Just think about your story of any digital tool, anything that worked or not, or did not work for you in the setting of, and in the crossroads of planning management with digital tools in urban settings. And Anne, yes, you raised your hand. Please just jump in. Always.
Like to give you an inspiration. I've already taken down a story, for example, where we introduced a digital performance measurement tool, quantitative between districts back in the day, not in urban settings, but still like sort of, I know that very often like urban or like sort of cities, municipalities have the same tasks and also sometimes are like competing. This has had some lessons I will share later, but this is a story we would like to collect. Really think of something where you may have worked in an urban or in a local setting, introducing a digital tool for planning and management or anything else, and what you've learned from it. And Lucy, how much time do we have to start?
Yes, so we've had, let me check how many times. We can give you 10 minutes maximum. That's okay. I think we have to see if it's filling in, but yeah, let's start with 7 minutes, 8 minutes until 9:30.
And feel free to write down or visualize, and if you like, share later on.
Great, thanks, Anna. And if there is anything, any problem, if you have problem with Miro as well, you can post it in the chat and we can paste it there for you. And anything you need, please let us know in the chat also, or raise your hand. Thanks. All right. I think we got some stories. Some of you are still perhaps thinking or writing. One minute more. And we would be happy to hear some voices, also some told stories about your learning. So those who feel they would like to share, you can get prepared. I'm facing some difficulties to type here. Oh, please type in the chat box and then we could copy there, please. Yes. Anne, should we start trying to see if someone wants to share? Yes. Volunteers first. Your learning story. Thanks so much already for sharing that in the Miro board, and I'll try to copy Mr. Hack contribution. But we would really love to hear some voices, to hear some insights from your stories. Anne?
Just breaking the ice to give like the end of the story of the performance measurement digital tool that we introduced for management purposes. Also wanting to spark like a competition between different local teams. It worked quite well. By the way, like that was basically a simple Excel sheet that we converted monthly into some pie charts, you know, like typically speaking, like a dashboard, also to see like sort of how it is going and to manage. But lessons learned from there were it sparked quite a focus on quantitative, just like on numbers, and quality was suffering. So our learning was, if you introduce such a tool, which is a performance dashboard, basically digitally, there's also readily available solutions for that in the market, then you really have to go also for qualitative. You need to counter check with stories if what you're doing is really working. And it's also good to have like a third-party entity, like a 4 eyes or 6 eyes principle that you can check in between. And also help teams who introduce that tool and start to fill in numbers that they get really curious and excited about collecting qualitative stories and really like sort of the measuring the impact of asking actually beneficiaries and like to take the extra effort to interview on a regular basis also beneficiaries or users of your service in that way. End of story.
Great, thanks, Anna. Many things we can learn from the different examples and tests. Ich kann gerade nicht. Okay, next person, Charlotte.
Yeah, then I will also continue. I mentioned that I was developing this planning tool. It was for planners for municipal planners, but not only urban planners, from all kinds of fields, education, transport, like variety. And one big task was really to focus on the needs and not it's not about the tool. The tool itself has not a purpose. The tool is embedded in a process. And I think to really understand those digital solutions supporting a process is one of the key learnings, because we can start to talk about data. Yeah, we can talk hours about data, but the data is the fuel for the tool to give any kind of contribution to a process for decision making or for actually understanding a problem better. Yeah, so this is something I think we tend to focus on the solution itself, and on the technical part of it, but the background is always, where does this solution support whom in what? And yeah, that's my biggest learning from the process. We try to really do it user-centric, and my story here is that we actually ask the people, what do you do in your daily work and how do you do it now? And then to understand in which fields a solution could support. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte. We have so many nice, colorful post-its in the board. We could hear some more voices. Otherwise, of course, you can read for yourself what's written there. But of course, it's easier if you're sharing that also through the stories.
So I can see Mahmoud's hand.
I
do not know if you're seeing it.
Yes, I was in the board and I cannot multitask currently. Mahmoud, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I couldn't resist actually to share this story. I shared it in many forums earlier, and some of the colleagues from Bangladesh who are also joining here in this session today also knows the story. It was the story of a small municipality in the northern part of the country when we were working a few years back. And when we were trying to identify the main issues of that particular municipality to become like a sustainable one financially and, this kind of thing. One of the issue was revenue, right? They were not generating enough revenues and so on. And when we went to details in identifying the revenue sources and what are the problem with those and so on, we found that there is an issue with the water billing system of that particular municipality. And we were surprised to see that by their own initiative, they already have a software that was, used to get the, water bill information that they're receiving from the from the citizens and so on. But there were some issues. At the end of the day, it was a very interesting story for me because we spent 2,500 euro only to enhance that particular system. And immediately after that, the officials who were really corrupted and was taking the money from the citizen, but was not really depositing it in the fund of the municipality, but putting their own pocket, they were identified immediately. And the mayor was able to, take action to mitigate the whole thing. So the message that I got is that it's not like always the state-of-the-art technology that we need to use. Very small solution, small step can still make a difference in enhancing the governance issue, especially in the cities, the smaller cities and so on. I was really very much motivated, after that nice thing happened in that municipality. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No, great. Thanks. So the story, the process, and also the technology, right? And sometimes less is more. Good, great. We would still have some time for last input if you would like. Otherwise, we have a lot of stories in the board. We can go there and perhaps afterwards, Anne can try to categorize a bit or do something out of it. And yeah, thanks a lot for sharing this. We hope that this is a good inspiration, and it's brainstorming already regarding, okay, what makes a good solution, what are the difficulties, and yeah, what can GIZ then also learn from our own experience we have been living and practicing for the past years. And with that, I think I'll look at Charlotte and Anne. I don't know if you want to say something else. And I don't know
let me just build the bridge before the inputs come, because I said that I was kind of co-initiating this since I had the story of my previous work developing a tool, and in our project we have the Tosca tool that will be also the first input for today. And we also faced this issue, which in academia is called the implementation gap. Yeah, so you have so many tools out there, and you have so many people who need tools, but it kind of doesn't get from the tool into the process I described into the operational work. And there's a gap, and the gap is filled with bottlenecks. And today is also the idea to discuss, or we already did discuss bottlenecks, but to identify those and to bring all the tools we have within GIZ. We will find out more about the tools we have in GIZ later, but like to discuss if we all have the same bottlenecks and what GIZ can actually do to overcome this implementation gap. That was kind of the discussion we had even like last year. And therefore we thought to have this session to learn from each other and overcome the implementation gap.
And we have one hand from Guhar. Please just come in.
Yeah, thank you. Let me first share with you, because I'm not working in the urban governance, but I'm working on the local governance, and local governance is municipality. We are also dealing with municipality. We just started a digitalization process, which Rehman already mentioned that we are also working on this collecting local revenue, and we come up with the digital solutions in 1 or 2 municipality to have proper receipts and for the community and access to services. But the one problem which we are facing here is actually the capacity gap at a local level, which is one of the problem, and we are still an emerging economy. You see in Pakistan, the local government is also a fragile governance context we are living. So the people's, again, like Rehman said, that at a local level, they want to grab money, they are corrupt, and a lot of corruption is going on. So sometimes they want to play with the system. They don't want to give this digital system to be one of the systems. So they are, these are the issues which we are facing here. And today I joined this one, so I'm looking forward to learn from our colleague. Sorry for if I can't pronounce properly, Charlotte. That you already developed some tools. So it will be good, because we are going now in this phase of program to develop the spatial planning at a municipal level, and to develop some planning exercise, participatory planning methodologies we have. So I would like to learn about those as well. So if we can learn, I can learn and adopt here and practice here. Might be we can also contribute to the system here in Pakistan. So this is from my side.
Great, thanks. I think that's the idea. That's exactly the idea, and we will have time for this exchange. I think, yeah, in between the presentations, but also we will start with the Tosca presentation. And if that's fine, we can then pick up on this joint learning then afterwards. We will have time for that. We have now lessons from Tosca, Toolkit for Sustainable City Planning and Analysis from the project in India, and handing over then to Shumana and Nina for them to present their input. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Lucy. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah.
It's there. Great.
Is my screen visible in the full screen mode?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and greetings from India. My colleague Nina and I will be presenting to you the lessons learned from experimenting of the Toolkit for Sustainable City Planning and Analysis, in short Tosca, in the city of Bhubaneswar in India. Many of you might know this tool in the name of Octopi, Octib, Cityscope. There are many versions. So now it is called Tosca. This was developed in SUDSC project, Sustainable Urban Development Smart Cities, closely with my supervisor, Mr. Kiran Rajashekhariya. So let's see. All of us know the urbanization challenges that are posed in the contemporary period. Many cities in India face such challenges. One of them that adds up to difficulties in urban planning and governance is limited availability of standardized data in cities, in municipalities. And also there's an issue of integrating spatial data with non-spatial data formats. All these adds up to challenges in urban planning, governance, and sustainable development of cities. With this tool, Tosca, we tried to address this gap of getting data together in spatial and non-spatial format by building a digital interactive participatory platform that integrates layers of information for informed decision making and thereby develop or cater to challenges and issues that the cities are facing in terms of urbanization. The tool in a whole is not a GIS tool, but it is a decision support system. And that is jointly developed by City Science Lab, Hafen City University, Germany, and MIT Media Lab, USA. It is an interactive tool, as mentioned, which helps to analyze urban relationships. It can develop what-if scenarios, simulations. It can also work on real-time data. The advantage of this tool is it uses an open source software, so pretty similar to QGIS, and that is GRASS for this tool, Geographic Resources Analysis Support System. Here is a glimpse of the tool, how it looks like. So this is a tabletop device, but the best part is the software in it can be also used in a mobile app or in an iPad. So one need not stick to such a huge tabletop device in one's room, but it is very much flexible in terms of which hardware you use for it. The tool has 4 layers of information or knowledge level, starting from very minimal to the highest level of complexity. The minimal one is the viewer, where you see citizen participation to the maximum. Here, a layman can work on the tool. He or she does not need to know how to use GIS. Whereas as you come towards the complexity part, it ends up with a planner interface where expert decisions technicians can come in and do analysis and come up with solutions. I'll run you through a few examples of use cases of Tosca, which we have tried to experiment in the city of Bhubaneswar. First, we had tried to see what are the characteristics of slums in the city, both in terms of land use as well as land ownership, and based on which how the slums can be relocated in the vicinity areas. A module named Layer Overlay was used for the same. I will not go into the details of any of the modules because, as discussed, the purpose is to know the processes rather than the technicalities itself. If there are any questions, I can definitely take it up in the end. Next, it was good to see what are the public amenities that are accessible to the slums. We used a buffer diagram for this, and the purpose was whether or at all if any gaps are identified with this tool, then the government can come up with their decisions to plug in that particular amenity in the area for the slums. Third use case, we could identify vacant lands in and around, not in, but around the slum area, and identify what are the land use of that particular vacant land and who owns the land, whether it's a government land or a private land. Based on this analysis, it was easy to identify where the slums can be relocated from their current place, keeping in mind that their existing socio-economic ties of livelihood are not cut. Fourth, and the last use case to share from my end, we did look into transport as well. So accessibility mapping to public transport bus stops near the slum areas. A road network was examined to see whether the slums were serviced by the public transport buses, whether there's a bus stop within a kilometer or 500 meters, and what needs to be done from the government side. Now with this, I will come to the learnings of the tool. So let's see what worked well first. Well, to summarize it up, the technical part worked really well. In terms of, we had sustained technical cooperation between HCU in Germany, GIZ, and the consultant in India without meeting at all in 3 years, face to face, due to COVID. The project did not work in silo, the SUDSC project, but we could have a close exchange with the SUT project, Sustainable Urban Transport Project, in terms of taking up the use cases for transport in the city. We had good technical exchange and knowledge sharing with other partner states in the project who have, for the next phase of the project, come up with the willingness to apply and implement the tool as part of our project. Fourth, project documentation on tool development and software design was made really good by the consultant, and this helps in replication of the tool anywhere else by another consultant or another party. And fifth, HCU has prepared very good video tutorials and user manuals, which provides a very basic ground for anyone to understand how the tool operates at a minimal or a downscale level. And now let's see where the challenge is. Very important. We had a lot of learnings in this part as well. What could have been better or what was really difficult for us was the coordination with the partners part, cooperation, getting the process involved, getting it institutionalized and operationalized with the government. So let's see one by one. We had repeated change in the project leads, be it GIZ, be it the HCU team in Germany. And this became very difficult for smooth flow of information and getting an end result that was ideated and to be expected in the end. So change in repeated hands was really a problem to start with. Now, with COVID, the TOSCA project really started and ended in between COVID. And that was a major drawback for us. We could not have any face-to-face partner consultations or workshops, which was the priority to start the project. So the terms of reference for the project, the consultant, the very first task was to conduct workshop and consult the government to know what are the user needs. What does the government want? Why do they want to implement the tool, and in which areas they want to implement the tool? That could not happen. So we had to work internally. And then after the tool was developed, we could not even demonstrate the tool to the partners. So that was a major drawback and a learning for us. So in the storyboard, I mentioned in one of the clips that one learning maybe from this that just came to my mind loud out of my thought is, it is very important in which department we host the tool when we start the project. Because for this case, the tool was hosted in the partner state department, the government department, housing and urban development department. Maybe if the tool was hosted in the Directorate of Town and Country Planning or the maybe some kind of a town planning institute where already the officials are planners, they are doing the planning, maybe in such unforeseen contingencies or critical or even events, they could have at least done something with the tool by themselves, or this extreme non-consultations, non-coordinations results wouldn't have happened. That's a thought from my side. Coming to the third point, yeah, the consultants did not get into the partner premises because it was a complete lockdown in the city due to COVID. And email and phone conversations went unattended because government had changed priorities. Obvious, there were much more attentions needed due to COVID priorities. Fourth, all these led to discontinuing interest of the partners, and their application of the tool became really not possible at all. So the tool is still lying there with the government, but it is not used. In spite of so many development of the use cases. And all these led to no conduction of training programs, capacity could not be built, and the tool cannot be or could not be operationalized in the government. It could not be institutionalized. With all these things, I will not let you lose hope with the tool. We also have the tool scope for developing the tool in this phase of the project, which is SUDSC2. And with this hope, I hand over the presentation to my colleague Nina, who will tell you how to do it better. Over to you, Nina.
Thank you, Shumala. Thank you. Yes, as Shumala said, we did not lose hope so far, and we will continue with an study and expert fund this year, or in this phase, in the second phase. And for this, our plan is that we will have new use cases developed, which will be hopefully defined in the kickoff workshops with the partners at the local level. So we want to have those kickoff workshops to define the areas of the use cases, and we want to identify use cases which are not only like challenges to one city, but to many more. No. So I think somebody's not muted. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay. Yes, so we plan to have 2 new shared use cases, which then can be upscaled to other cities as well, and 3 new analysis modules, but the focus should be on the process development and implementation, as well as capacity development. For the process development, as Shumana said, we have the software at some partner institutions already, but it is not used. So as we have now more partner states, more partner cities this time, and interest from them in having, like, using the Tosca tool, we have to set up the software at the institutions, of course. But we would like to develop a transfer package. This means that we will have like a full package saying that, for example, like how much manpower do you need to actually use Tosca at your institution? How much is it going to cost you? This business part is going to be covered and transparent as well to the institution. And on the other hand, we will have, or what we want to have is to develop standard operating procedures, for example, so that we have the technical part as well. So again, we have like some kind, like a book or videos to show you how to use Tosca as a tool, as a technical tool. And for the capacity development part, we need to have a capacity development strategy for the end user, and we have to develop the training modules for the government officials. So we want to train trainers. So the trainers in the end, of course, they can train the government officials, people from the private sector as well, after the completion of the 2 years, for example, after our project. And very important, we would like Tosca to be linked to the state training modules or even national training modules in India, which are there from the government, so that, of course, the knowledge is not getting lost, and we can actually use Tosca in India. So these are our ideas so far to do it better. And yes, we would like to say thank you. This is our presentation.
Thank you so much, Shumona and Nina, for such an honest review. I've just had like sort of the backstopping with Luciana. I would like to take over the facilitation for the next hour. And Lucy and myself, of course, noticed that we are running a little bit behind schedule. So I have like one adjustment of the schedule. I would like to open the floor for one round of questions of understanding towards Nina and Shumona on their presentation, and we would have a discussion or questions and answers at the end of all 3 inputs, if that's okay. And if there's questions or comments in between, please just use the chat. For the time being, are there questions from participants towards Shumona and Nina? Or also Charlotte, I suppose. There was a comment from Apana. Apana is in. Would you like to come in with your comment?
No, hi everyone, and congratulations to Shumona and Nina and Charlotte for taking this forward. Only thing that I would say that, I spent 2.5 years on this SUDSC1. And I was interestingly working with the slums and housing in Bhubaneswar under the same project. And I didn't had a clue about that this other process is going on. So if it is not happening in-house, why do we expect the partner to do the same thing? They are also human beings like us. So when people do not synergize, there are reasons for it. There are human reasons, there are professional reasons. There are things like that. And I am just being very candid about it that, please do not take this for granted that the partners would do what we are not doing ourselves, because they are the same professionals, same career graph. They are also being guided by the similar things. So it would be a bit naive to think that, that they would do what we could not do. So that's the only thing I would say, Shumona and Nina and Charlotte, because it was for me, you know, like every day I kind of figure it out that, okay, this was also done. Okay, that was also done. And, you know, sitting in the same office, in the same floor, within a 1 meters of distance, and we could not communicate. That's what I would just want to highlight on this. Yeah, thanks. But otherwise, I'm very hopeful. I'm absolutely positive that under your guidance, Shumona, things would really move forward. And with this young energy, things would be having a very different color. Yes, thanks.
Thanks for sharing, Aparna. And I think this goes out, like sort of, this is in the spirit of today. This is a learning lab, and like we have a very honest exchange. And I think all of us know that situation that we're working on something, we're implementing something, and then we lack the time to share. So perhaps we should also think about ways and means how to share practices. I think that's the perfect bridge to our next input giver, Lisa. We have invited you to share, like sort of to show us what you're working on in the Participate platform and project, which is ways and means to compile practices of digital participation, basically. Over to you, Lisa.
Sure. Thank you very much, Anne, for the nice lead over. And thanks to the colleagues for presenting the Tosca tool. I have to confess I'm a big fan, and I'm currently working with a project in Palestine, just for sharing a local governance reform program that is actually also cooperating on implementing Tosca with different municipalities in Palestine. So I'm a big fan. I think there's lots of learnings, and yeah, thanks for sharing so openly. So I'm here to talk about participation, citizen participation in the context of, well, urban planning and management. And the title I put here is Not Without Participate. So I'm working in the sectoral department on digital governance issues. And for some time, I have engaged myself quite intensively in our GIZ practices in the field of citizen participation, digital and face-to-face. And I realized there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of making this really meaningful and inclusive. So this is a bit the framing for this input. I am not an urban planner, but I think there's lots of learning also in the field of participation for, so to say, our urban development portfolio. So I have 3 objectives for this very short input. So number 1, I hope you will have, after this input, a kind of first good understanding of some conceptual foundation for meaningful digital participation. You will have learned a bit about the Participate tool. That is actually a tool that can help you, I think, in your work. And perhaps I have positively triggered some thinking in terms of use cases in your projects. That would be very nice, and that would be my learning interest actually today. But before I come into conceptual understanding, I want to put forward 3 core messages that I think are very important before we discuss tools or advisory packages, etc. And I think it's really, really important. I've observed quite a lot of work in the field of citizen participation. And message number 1 is really we need to understand that meaningful digital or face-to-face citizen participation is really not about just having a singular public event or providing an app where citizens can give feedback. We need to move away from this understanding into really, and I think Charlotte mentioned it earlier, into a process understanding for citizen participation that needs to be linked coherently with planning processes now in your context. And I think that's so important. I want to put it ahead. We are not talking here about public hearings or public events or a citizen app, okay? It's about a holistic understanding for how to design these processes. Next one, and I think it was mentioned before, if we want to do this properly, we need resources. Let's not underestimate. This is not something that is done just on the go, there we have a tool and then we do a bit of citizen participation. No, not at all. We need to have dedicated resources, and we need to advise also our partners and think with them, what are these resources and how do we actually realistically budget and calculate these? Number 3, for me, really, I would like to put forward, and I know we talk about digital tools this morning, but for me, citizen participation is most meaningful when it's done in a blended manner. So what that means is we combine different methods and formats, digital and face-to-face, to really make sure that we're not leaving people behind. And I think this is really important. Let's not look into now we foster digital participation. Let's look into how do we combine this in a very effective way with formats that work in a given community or urban space where people already exchange their views and perspective. And let's link it in a strategic way. So 3 messages. Now, I think someone just said, let's not be naive. I think often what happens in our project reality is like, okay, either it's us as GIZ saying this or our partners say, let's build an app for citizen participation, and then we deal with this whole citizen side of things, okay? So this is a bit the reality, so let's not be naive about it. And this was our starting point for developing some, let's say, packages for support for projects. And this is what I want to talk about today. Oops. I didn't know that there's a, okay, so we have 2 support packages. Package number 1 is a position paper. That's really very conceptual, okay? A position paper on how to do, or how do we as GIZ understand public participation in a digital age. Package number 2 is the practical dimension. That is our tool Participate, and I will actually show it to you in a second. Okay. So the position paper, and I will share it in the chat. We have it available in 4 languages. It's really, I think 7 pages. I think so, yeah, not too long. It's a position paper by the sectorial department, which gives a bit of conceptual background, how we understand digital participation. And I think the core of this document is really, we developed 6 core principles, kind of quality criteria on how we as GIZ want to do citizen participation in a digital age. And it was not headquarter developing these principles. We had a very iterative process actually with different workshops with projects on how to come up with these. So you will now, on this slide, I have put these 6 principles. I will not go through the principles now because I think you can read up about them. I think they are really good basis if you want to engage also with partners on a discussion on how to design a participation process. Have a look at that and you can kind of bring them in. They're not very difficult, I think, to grasp. I think it's a good basis for kind of dialogue with partners. So this is our position paper, kind of a conceptual frame, okay? We realized then, okay, this is good and important, but often when we then engage with partners, we need a more practical dimension. So this is where number 2 comes in, package number 2, Participate, a digital advisory tool to design your participation strategy and choose relevant methods. And this came, I think this idea came 2019 or 2020. Because we realized we have the user here that you see on these slides is Mozoke. He works in a municipality in Kampala. We had a strong focus on sub-Saharan Africa in the beginning. And you know, he wants to do citizen participation, so he starts to Google and he is kind of overwhelmed by the results and like, how do I do it? We realized what the user really wants to know is how much does this cost from a municipality's perspective? How much does it cost? What kind of formats can I use, face-to-face and digital? And if I want to do a digital participation process, which tools are already there that I can use so I don't have to reinvent the wheel? So this is where Participate comes in. It's a kind of one-stop shop for meaningful participation, digital and face-to-face. And we pushed this idea through the GIZ Innovation Fund, and we won it in 2020 with a lot of hard work in a fantastic network of different projects that helped us to work through this idea. And what you get as a user, and I will show it to you in a moment, is you get customized advice on which participation methods could be suitable depending on your context and what you want to achieve. And you get information on which open source participation platforms are available if digital is the way that you want to promote. So let's test it. And now I will actually share my screen. We are it's a web-based, so to say, participation platform. There we go. I hope you're able to see my screen now. We are currently still working on it. So this is, so to say, live. And there's lots of things and bugs that don't yet fully work. Okay, so please bear with me. I can share the link in the chat as well for you to test. I think what I wanted to show is, is when you go to the starting page, so to say, you can the tool guides you whether you want to receive advice on participation methods, okay, or you want to design a strategy before you jump into methods. So this is again the thinking. We need to have a holistic understanding. I just want to show you what happens when you click on here our participation methods. It's basically a kind of survey model. So you have 9 questions here. You see step 1 of 9 questions that really ask you about what do you want to achieve with your participation method? What is the target group you want to reach? Who do you want to work with? How experienced is the target group with digital tools? How experienced are you with digital tools? Also in the moderation. I think it also talks about the communication channels you want to use. So it's 9 questions. You see sometimes it's, so to say, multiple choice options. It guides you through. Okay, I think it takes around 10 to 15 minutes. And at the end, you get, and this is, for instance, what we're still working on, you get an overview of what you want to achieve. Okay, just to have it summarized. And we're working on to make this a bit more, just the design a bit more appealing. But I think the heart of this is here. You get recommended methods. So we developed so-called methods cards, and in these cards, virtual cards, you get everything you want to know. You know how much it could cost, how many people you can reach, how to implement it. And the tool basically gives you advice on, okay, in this case, e-consultation could be a suitable method. Another one could be online brainstorming or a survey format. Okay. What we're working on is also to include still relevant case studies of other projects or partners that have done it. So this is what you get here. What you get as well, and I think this is also really important in the terms of not reinventing the wheel, is which platforms for participation are already out there. So what we started with is a mapping of 4 open source participation platforms. And you see them here, platforms for digital participation, Adhocracy Plus, CitizenOS, Consul, and Ushahidi. And you see here, we analyze them as per 6 categories, okay? And it's a very good starting point. If this is of interest to you, you can have a look at Adhocracy. Now, this is a German one. What can I use it for? And we did an analysis, a comparative analysis on this. And we have direct contact points, so we're actually cooperating with these organizations. So this is Participate. This is where we are. We are still kind of, it's not yet live, okay? So please, you can use it. We're still gathering kind of user feedback. And most importantly, and I think I can stop sharing now, we are looking for, so to say, projects that would like to test this with their partners. So if there's anything coming up in your project where you feel you want to create some learning, since it's about Learning Lab, please reach out. We're really happy to accompany. It doesn't need a lot of resources in this case to apply this tool, and we're interested to learn a bit more how it works in practice. But for now, you're happy to use what is there. We're still building on it. And really, the idea is also that in the end, partners, not just GIZ projects, but that we have it openly available also to partner municipalities to use it. And I think by that, I finish.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the input and providing us an insight to the Participate platform. And as said, I've written that also in the chat. Lisa has asked, like generally speaking, like sort of the context you may use this, but also if you're interested in using that in your project concretely and you would like to volunteer, please just come in. One round of comments or questions towards Lisa. And I'm seeing the hand of Guhad. Guhad, please come in.
Thank you. Thank you. It was really a very nice presentation. And I think we also discussed in last session under the SNGA. Under my component, we already, when I saw this study before, digital age, this GIZ study. So I already planned, and there is one consultant we hired because before going for digital solution, I want to conduct analytical review, analysis in my municipality. And this study, I think, would the result would come end of next week and next month. That the challenges and opportunity of digital participations, because in the context where we are in the rural community, the municipality, the knowledge of the people, the access to internet and all these things also. And then we are also thinking about to leave no one behind if we totally shift to this one. So I also agreed that we need a hybrid situation, not only total digital in this one. I would need the content, and when the result is coming, so I would love to contact you. And if we can pilot this in one of our municipality, so let's see the result. If there is a positive result, we can share. If there is lesson, then we can share. So thank you for this one, and I'm looking forward to contact you in this regard.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Lovely, Guhad. So we found one project that is really interested. And like, let me make the question, Guhad, could you also potentially share the results of the study? Because that sounds extremely interesting. If you like.
There will be so under we will give a presentation under the SNGA, like our task force as well, but I can share the study with you, and that would be in the context of specific to our municipality, like challenges and opportunities. If there, how much opportunities are there for the community and digital participations. I will share this data.
That's
the result
lovely.
And we can okay.
Thank you so much for this. And I noticed that we have all 3 working groups or task forces present today here in the room. Because of time, and also Gunnar, because you have been waiting now since long, I'm very happy to hand over to Gunnar Hesch, a colleague from the sector department from the Competence Center Digital Societies, who will provide us with an input and insight into geospatial planning and also to the Data Service Center. Gunnar, over to you.
Right, thank you, Anna, and thanks to all of you. It's very interesting to see those talks and hear you speak about this method of participation. I studied urban planning about 10 years ago and lost track a bit, and it's great to get an update on where the discussion is heading. I want to give you a short overview on basically all things geospatial happening at GIZ headquarters that I know of, which is not everything, I guess. It's going to be a bit all over the place because there's a lot of different topics I want to address. So I'm going to rush through the presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat. And if you want to take up one of the topics I mentioned, feel free to get in touch and reach out to me, and we can spend some more time on more specific questions. So first of all, I would like to give you a quick introduction into remote sensing. So basically, when we talk about remote sensing, it's usually about satellite remote sensing. And this is a highly relevant topic for GIZ and our partners. Almost all SDGs can be either achieved with the help of remote sensing, or remote sensing can help in achieving those, or can be measured or tracked using remote sensing. Here you have an overview. You can see all the SDGs and how many of those can be monitored using remote sensing. a lot of GIS projects in basically every country are working with remote sensing or geographic information systems right now. And you can see a breakdown of the different sectors on the top right. And you can see a world map with the different countries, and the numbers indicate the number of projects we know of at headquarters who are working with remote sensing or GIS. Probably the numbers are underestimates, but it's always difficult to get an overview of such a big topic. What we do at headquarters to try and connect projects working with this kind of technology is we're building up a network on remote sensing and geographic information. And I can only encourage you to join this network. It's rather straightforward, actually. It's not very official. It's just a few colleagues who organize a series of events. For example, we organize trainings. We have example terms of reference for capacity development, etc. And you can just reach out to us, or you can join our Teams community. I will post the link later on, and get an exchange, and possibly with us, possibly with other colleagues who are working on the same issues. And I just want to give you a short overview of what we are doing, and I will skip this one. And let's just have a look at this slide, because here, first of all, you can see all those countries where we're working with remote sensing again, and you have a lot of links. So everything that's underlined is a link. So you have a link to the digital gateway trend topic, remote sensing and geographic information. You have an email address, geoinformation@gz.de, you can reach out. You have the paper on remote sensing and development cooperation. You have the Teams community of the network and of QGIS, which you can also join. And you can get access to the newsletter. So using this slide, we basically have an overview of everything you can get from us right now. And what I mean by us is basically 4 colleagues right now. It's me and 3 colleagues from a different department at the sectoral department from the 4D, and we are all happy to help. We all read those mails at geoinformation@gz.de. DeepL destroyed the email address. So this is the correct one, geoinformation@gz.de. The other one has been mistranslated, but I can fix that later on before I send out the presentation. So that was a quick rundown of the network. The next thing I want to show you is the pages on remote sensing and geoinformation on the Digital Gateway. And the Digital Gateway, I don't know if you heard about it, is an internal one-stop shop, everything about digitalization in GIZ, and you can get an exchange, you can get overview about different topics. And there's one page on remote sensing and geographic information as well. And I just picked out a few links, and I'm just going to switch to the gateway itself. So here you can see there's our landing page on remote sensing and geographic information. You have a technical support offer, you have a link to the network. And I wanted to show you a few pages just to get you curious, basically. So first of all, we have a few articles on tracking SDG 11 with alternative data sources. So here we use remote sensing and machine learning to map urban development. That was a data lab project. I think it was very exciting. The colleagues in Colombia worked with the data lab to track population changes and build-up changes between 1990 and today. Then there was a different topic, different project where they had a further look and tried to get into more detail. This time they looked at urban green, and just can encourage you to read this article. Less focusing on urban development itself, we have a few other articles that might be interesting. For example, we have some guidance on aspects to consider if you want to buy satellite imagery, which some of you might need. You can also get a checklist, and the beautiful thing about this checklist is that it has been created jointly with the procurement department. So if you answer everything in that checklist, the procurement department will probably not ask too many questions after that. And also the checklist is not only a list, it's also some explanation in there on what the things actually mean. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me and I can try to help you. Then we have a very interesting program where you can access planet imagery. So Planet is a remote sensing company They offer satellite imagery with the 5-meter resolution. So 1 pixel is 5 meters, which means you can, for example, see cars on the street. You can't see what kind of car, but you can see there is a car. That's the level of resolution you can get. And between the tropics, in the countries highlighted on this map, you can access this data for free as long as it's forest related. And I know urban development is not necessarily forest related, but still I think it's great to know that there's this free offer and you can have at least a look at the data and get a feeling for the quality they can deliver. Then there's a quick introduction on what Earth observation actually is, with some theoretical background and some samples and what you can do with it, and also an overview on what different kinds of satellites are out there and what you can expect from different resolutions, just to get you started on the topics. And last but not least, we have a page on the Data Service Center, but first I would switch back to PowerPoint. Okay, so that's the GIZ Digital Gateway. I just wanted to get you curious and feel free to explore. And if you have any questions about any of those contents, feel free to send me a message. Next thing I want to present to you is the GIZ Data Service Center. And the Data Service Center is basically a new service offer by the sectoral department. So what do we need a Data Service Center for? Basically, it's 3 main things. We want to provide access to a centralized data infrastructure, which is not available in GIZ right now in the way we envision it. So we want to give access to data infrastructure, to data sources, and also to experts working with data. We want to be able to provide data analysis for projects along the complete project cycle. So that starts with the appraisal mission and ends with the evaluation of a project. And we want to provide analysis for all those phases in GIZ. And we want to support also data collection efforts if they are happening. For example, I don't know, mobile participation is some kind of a data collection where we can envision support here. And we are primarily focusing on internal processes right now. So we're not focusing on partner systems at this time. We're first focusing on GIZ systems. Once we have that up and running, then possibly partner systems will also get in scope. But first of all, it's an internal offer. And we are currently working on 3 topics mostly. One is geographical information systems, the other one is natural language processing, and the third one is monitoring and evaluation. You can see the 3 different topics are not very consistent in the definition. One of them is a data type, one of them is a data processing method, and the third one is a topic of interest, basically. But still, it works surprisingly well to divide this into those 3. And in the field of geographical information systems, we want to provide a centralized spatial data infrastructure for GIZ that will be set up. I'm guessing it will take us half a year or year at least until it's up and running, but we're working on it. And we want to allow central data access and also data procurement. So we are working on a framework agreement with some German institutions to get satellite imagery for free from them. And we're also hosting those communities I mentioned earlier, for example, the QGIS community, where you can get an exchange with other colleagues. This is all still under construction. Nothing is done yet except the QGIS community, basically. So we're setting all things up. We are hiring people right now, and we are trying to get going this soon. So far, the idea is that we have a core team, that's the one in red in the middle, who are data experts. Then we have the internal IT who will help us with providing the infrastructure. And then we have the sector teams, like, for example, Anna or Lisa. And we want to work jointly with those sector teams. We provide the data expertise. They have the knowledge of the specific sectors. And jointly, we will try to support projects. So that was about the Data Service Center. This is still also being set up. As I mentioned before, we're just hiring people. It's going to take some time, but I just wanted to show you that the offer is out there and we're working on it, and that we want to support you in the future with that. And the last thing I wanted to show you is a very interesting data source. Some of you already know it. I've seen it in presentations earlier that you're also using it. But I wanted to highlight this because I think for urban development, this is one of the most interesting data sources out there, and that is OpenStreetMap. And OpenStreetMap is basically something like Wikipedia, but for maps. And because I'm not great in explaining other people's projects, I'm just going to use what they prepared themselves. And I'm going to share this 2-minute video with you on what is OpenStreetMap.
OpenStreetMap.org is a free map of the world that anyone can edit. Think Wikipedia, but for maps. OpenStreetMap allows anyone to view, add, edit, and use map data of anywhere on Earth. It's free and open source, meaning there's no cost and very few restrictions on how you can use the data. That makes it very popular with humanitarian organizations, community groups, local businesses, and governments alike. One of the great things about OpenStreetMap is that if something is missing from the map, you can add it. Geographic data is lacking for many parts of the world, and OpenStreetMap allows anyone to add to the map. Then everyone else can see and use that information. That can be very empowering. Local communities could add what's important to them to the map, since every place is different. Maybe it's schools or hospitals, bike trails or dog parks, roads or buildings, or any number of other things. And since OpenStreetMap is free and open source, anyone can use the map to make decisions, plan projects, and work in their communities. OpenStreetMap was started in the UK in 2004 when its founder, Steve Coast, had a hard time finding maps and geographic data he could use. It's grown to include millions of contributors from all over the world. OpenStreetMap has since been used in many humanitarian and disaster situations as well, as people on the ground and volunteers from all over the world can quickly trace map data using satellite images, which aid and humanitarian groups can use to deliver relief supplies, plan their work, coordinate with each other, and a lot more. Businesses also use it for a variety of things, including turn-by-turn navigation for vehicles, maps to their locations, traffic and transit apps, and a lot more. Contributors add data to OpenStreetMap in a few ways, using GPS units and phone apps, by tracing satellite images, and by simply visiting a place themselves and recording their local knowledge. Most contributors to the map are volunteers. Something else great about OpenStreetMap is that it's easy to use. Just sign up, follow the tutorial, and you're on your way. Let's get started.
Right.
Gunnar, I like the last slide, your first day on the internship.
Yeah, the YouTube ad was quicker than I was. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show to you regarding the internal service offers and the internal support structures regarding remote sensing and geographic information, and also OpenStreetMap as a data source. Just one quick example for OpenStreetMap and its usability, and then I will shut up. So, for example, I talked to a colleague from India, and he was digitizing the location of wind energy turbines in India. And they were thinking about using remote sensing and machine learning to classify wind energy turbines and find them. And he spent several weeks researching this and also looking for wind energy turbines in India. And then he told me about this. I was thinking about how to do this, and then realized that the resolution you would need to classify this using remote sensing is going to be too expensive. You will have to spend several millions of dollars just to get these images. And then I typed a quick look up in OpenStreetMap. That took me about 10 minutes. And the result was about, I think, 20,000 wind energy turbines in India, which had already been digitized by OpenStreetMap volunteers and were ready to use. And you can just download this in a table or whatever format you need and include it in your own GIS system. And now I'm hoping that they're using this data set now, and I'm pretty sure that they are.
Gunnar, thank you so much for this ride through remote sensing, geospatial data, the services of the new data service center to come. And I would like to open the floor for one round of questions or comments towards Gunnar, and then open the floor for discussion on all three inputs or questions to everyone. I have seen that Sandra Schuster is interested in data for Vietnam. Sandra, would you like to come in?
Yeah, just briefly, thank you very much, Gunnar. Excellent presentation. I really like GIS and remote sensing. I have a practice case. I'm going on appraisal mission to Vietnam in a couple of weeks. What information do you have for Vietnam? What can you give me in my luggage, so to speak? What do you have?
That's an excellent question. It really depends on what you're interested in, obviously. So we would have to talk about what sector you're focusing on the appraisal mission.
Infrastructure, climate information, anything in that.
Okay.
Risk,
okay.
Climate risk.
Okay, so this is going to be a bit difficult to just throw it out there in a week, right? So you would need some time to do this right. But I'm pretty sure that we have a pretty good overview on infrastructure in Vietnam using OpenStreetMap, so that we can use. We can certainly get statistics on I don't know, surface temperature or on also water in Vietnam. So for example, there are data sets on surface water, which are updated regularly, I think monthly. And we could have a look at reoccurring water surfaces, which basically means floods, and see where those are happening and if there are overlaps with infrastructure. So that's something we could do for it. Just on the top of my head. We could also probably get an elevation model, which is available for free, and calculate landslide risks and see how that affects infrastructure. So that's things that come to mind. We could probably also do a network analysis and see where critical infrastructure is located. So for example, if you look at power lines, sometimes there's 2 or 3 small pieces of power lines which are basically critical to the whole system because of the way the network is built. Stuff like that we could also do in theory. All of this we could do, but not in a week.
No, that's okay. You've given me some hints.
So there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done to do this right. But that's some first ideas that come to mind. And I think for all those ideas, OpenStreetMap would be a very interesting data source. And regarding the elevation model and the surface water and stuff like that, then remote sensing would be more interesting as a data source. So for example, the European Commission Joint Research Center has a data set on water. I can send that to you. That might be interesting. And elevation models, there are tons out there by NASA and by ESA. And we can talk about this in more detail if you're interested.
You've given me perfect hints. Like I'll see what I'll find, and then right. If I may flick it to you if I need some more advice. Thanks so much for that.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And Sandra has made active use once again of the motto of today. It's a learning lab and peer exchange and like peer advice. I would like to open the floor to questions to all presenters. If you're still having questions or doubts or comments towards Shimona, Nina, Lisa, and Gunnar, please just come in, raise your hand and make questions. We had a long stretch of inputs, but like sort of very, very open and frank presentations, which I really, really liked. Would like to congratulate all input givers and speakers for that. Monica, please come in.
Yeah, so thanks to all presenters, and I really find this lab interesting enough. I have a question to the other 2 presenters. How did they comply with the GIZ data protection rules? Because I think that's the most critical link in any app development. So if there are any tips that you would like to give, as Sumana present, we want to take it to the further upscaling. So if there are any tips that you would like to do, like other projects, you have any ideas, and how did you really, and when did you start engaging with the data protection units? Because I think that's critical in GIZ.
Nina, Shimona, or Lisa, would you like to come in on that?
I believe, Monica, the question is to the other projects. We are from the same project as UDSC, so we all would like to know how the other projects could comply with the GDPR and data protection guidelines of GIZ so that we can also learn and go ahead.
I can share where we are at, and you hit, so to say, also the pain point there, Monica. So thanks for that question. And that question has given me also a bit of sleepless nights. So no, number one is when we designed the whole Participate tool as such, you know, it's a web-based kind of where you're guided through 9 questions. Number one, we designed it in a way that doesn't collect any data about the user, so you don't need to register. Okay, there is at no point, so to say, a specific form where you need to insert where you're based or where you work for, etc. That is not part of Participate at all. Okay, so this is what we did in our design phase to make sure that There is also because we don't need to collect it actually. Number two, the actual process now with our internal check, we are in the process of doing that. So I can't yet share with you we don't yet have a, so to say, result feedback. My feeling and my learning is that we engaged on this too late. Because, you know, when you're so focused on kind of content discussions, you tend to forget it. So my hope is, and my sincere hope is, since again, participate as such, there is at no point any kind of, so to say, data collected of the users. But let's see. Thanks for the question. I can share in the next learning lab, I guess, then.
We should have a learning lab on responsible data practices.
Yes, actually, yes.
Gunnar, may I make the question perhaps also towards you? Sorry that like sort of we get back to you because you also presented like sort of the future services of the data service center. Do you have like sort of a clue on that? Although I know it's other colleagues working on the topic, team colleagues.
Yeah, well, we have this luxury of having the data help desk in our team. So we're in the same team that the data help desk is located in, and that makes it sometimes easy to get access to them. Sometimes hard because you don't have a service level agreement like you would have if you have a request to the data help desk, right? But in general, we are very much considering those topics when building up the data service center, because we want to store data, right? We mentioned that earlier. And a lot of remote sensing data is non-personal and never will be, and it's pretty easy, but some of it is. Sometimes if you have individual buildings or you have crop yields of individual parcels, stuff like that, that's all personal data. So we really have to find a way how to comply with those rules and regulations, at the same time trying to reap those benefits of centralized data storage, which is difficult if you want to do both at the same time. So we are now in discussion with our own colleagues at the data help desk on how to approach this best, and possibly there's, in the end, it's going to be a set of standards and procedures we have to adhere to when doing data collection. And I'm hoping that in this way, when we advise projects in data collection, that we can even improve the data collection quality and at the same time also the compliance to data regulations, basically. Because we then have this in mind, we are not doing it for the first time, and projects usually do stuff for the first time because of the limited runtime, right? And we want to have a set of rules and regulations up and running for data collection. If you want to do a household survey, you have to store the data in this and this and this way. You have to get the what's it called? Einverständnis, the agreement by the participants for this and this use of data, and we have to define all that. And we're pretty close to the data help desk, so I'm pretty sure that we will be able to do so, and then also can consent, yeah, and then can also help projects with data collection in this regard. Also.
Thanks so much for sharing, Gunnar. Charlotte, you please go first. I also have one point to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to also share something. So in the previous project, we also worked with kind of semi-personal data. And in spatial data, there's this regulation of having within 100 times 100 square meter, you can't, like you have to say 3 people live in there, you can't go kind of smaller. And then the question is always about the attributes. What Gunnar said, I mean, if you have a house, it's a house, but what attributes do you put to this house? And I think there are techniques of anonymizing these attributes. And concerning Monica, I wanted also to ask, I mean, the app itself is an app, right, to either collect data or share data. And then it's always the question who owns the data, I guess. So, I mean, the app is just the kennel, like, right? So I think that's an interesting discussion, talking about spatial data on the one hand, attributing it, and Anna posted also the regulations within GIZ, but I would love to have kind of an SOP about, I don't know, spatial data resolution within GIZ, and maybe this is also something we can jointly work on and then share in the community.
So you're proposing standard op
or more maybe a guideline step-by-step checking if the data my project or tool wants to collect is within the framework. I don't know, maybe it's something like that.
Standard operating procedures or like sort of a guideline on geospatial data. Yeah, that's a good tip. Like I will write it in the chat also as a chat protocol. What I wanted to say, generally speaking, also like sort of rather from, I used to work for 8 years for projects and programs in Bangladesh. Very happy to see many former colleagues today also in the call. But also, for example, in such a sensitive sector like prison reform in Bangladesh also. And the question for me very often also is there a way to think right away, like sort of in early stages, once again, who owns the data? If it's really a system that should be integrated and should be working like sort of for our partners, I would sometimes even say, and you can check with partners, is that even like sort of relevant for the GDPR? Because then really like sort of the local data protection rules apply. However, which is set out in the responsible data guidelines, of course, we can follow some principles from the EU GDPR, like, for example, to be selective and really saving on personalized data if you don't have to collect them. And the question for me would be like sort of which legal system does apply? Like sort of, are you supporting the partner to purchase a system or to build a system that should be maintained? And then of course there is issues perhaps of like sort of GIZ staff having their personal data in there, but like sort of perhaps they're not the main user. And then like sort of you should look into the responsible data guidelines or any other guidelines that help you in like sort of doing that well and establish responsible data practices. Or is it a system that is really purchased by GIZ? And then I would ask, now I'm missing really a word, Treuhänderschaft, like sort of if GIZ is the trustee for the time being, you know, like sort of maintaining the system or the introduction of the system, but then also handing it really over to partners like after that, or if GIZ is really like sort of the owner and operator of it. When then like sort of we really have to be in all ways EU GDPR compliant. But like to take that decision early on and then really work on it early on, so this would not lead to delays like sort of in the system. But that's, I think, a selection and a decision you have to take together with partners. Just that also like from my end, and please seek the advice of the Data Help Desk. Fantastic colleagues working with Gunnar who can help with that and also like guide you towards like the right persons in digits if it's really like sort of an internal IT security issue. Is there any more questions towards our guests and input givers from participants? Last round of questions or comments. I count silence as like a no. So we have 13 more minutes to go, if you like, which is too little for like what we planned. However, what we could still do, we were having like a crowdsourcing session once again. We would like to crowdsource the digital tools for planning and management and participation you have been working with that we may not know about. And if that's okay for you, let's take 5 minutes to use the Miro once again and leave us a remark, the tools you know or you have worked with. But also you can post anything that you have knowledge of that may be useful in the context of our work. Thank you, Lucy, for posting. And thanks for letting us know if you're having trouble accessing it. Of course, you can also use the chat if you can't use the Miro. 5 more minutes. So 5 minutes before the end, we talk again for next steps. 1 or 2 more minutes. Okay, let's come slowly to an end and perhaps also continue the exercise, if you like, until end of this week to fill like sort of this Miro or this whiteboard. Sandra also has to leave. Gunnar has left us already. Thank you so much, Gunnar, once again. How will we continue? We were set to provide an input, basically also a little bit on behalf of the colleagues of Gunnar on what to consider when you procure digital tools. Besides, we've discussed the data protection question, but rather focusing on the procurement aspect. I will share this presentation afterwards. I think there's still like many points to consider, or some points to consider, not that many. And I would like to say also that you get very competent advice on that by our colleagues in the Competence Center Digital Societies once again. If you try to procure larger chunks or a larger part of an IT tool for planning and management, for example, but also, for example, of our colleague Michael Petersik, who works again in the Department of Governance and Conflict and is a specialist on public sector IT, and also several other sector planners. But I will post this presentation later on. Lucy, Charlotte, Ishtiaq, Mahmoud, please come in if I forget anything. This learning lab today was a first attempt like to create sessions that are there for peer-to-peer advice, crowdsourcing, and joint learning. And I guess we will be continuing like sort of with such methodologies, both in the TurboClick working group, such as Mahmoud has said, in the e-governance and digitalization working group of the Sector Network Governance Asia, because we've learned from prior activities. TurboClick has a long history of hosting excellent webinars. Thank you so much once again also to Vaishali for always hosting that. But we've learned from prior processes that this works actually best, opening up also like to all sector network colleagues, also to other sector networks. I was very happy to see that we have colleagues from Mozambique and Egypt also in the call today, which is excellent, because this is what we think is the way forward. What we would do with the results from the Miro board is that Lucy and myself, I guess we will still like sort of try to cluster a little bit to put things in order and offer the opportunity to everyone who has participated today, but also to other sector network members, by the way, also including of course 2 of us, that we have like sort of a document that like anyone can continue to work with. And that you know, because we all had them in the call, that you know the colleagues who may provide even further advice on digital participation. Lisa is here, like sort of, and would like to test the Participate platform with projects and programs to attend to remote sensing and geospatial requests by projects and programs. So you can turn to the colleagues in India, but of course also to Gunnar, for example. And if there's advice needed on IT procurement, as said, you will receive the contact details of colleagues in charge there also in the presentation. I will post in the chat in a minute. Is there anything else you would like to share? I would like to close the session perhaps a little with a small feedback. I like, I wish, I wonder. Perhaps you can provide us some feedback today on the session today and how you liked it. You can post with a hashtag. And with that, I would like to close the session today. Thank everyone for their inputs, for their participation, for making questions, for sharing views, and hoping to see you soon in the following weeks. Thank you all very much.